It was a scrapyard, really.
Everything looked derelict.
There was people who were misusing the buildings and putting them into a state where they couldn't be restored.
The politicians on the district council really felt that this was becoming a problem and that maybe New Lanark was just best left as an interesting ruin.
They were quite open about it. Either it's bulldozed into the Clyde or it's saved.
It was a very, very close run thing.
I think it was a political decision, I'm pleased to say. You know, politicians, despite the advice they get from civil servants, can sometimes allow their heart to rule their head.
Regardless of your political views, I don't think there's much doubt in the fact that George Younger saved the place. And at that point, then, it meant that renovation could begin.
Even the 60,000 was a lot to find in the early 1980s. But the solution to that was the National Heritage Memorial Fund.
We then had to justify why we were saving it by telling the story, and of course it was such a great story to sell. New Lanark always had to go where the funding was, so the funding became available for a visitor centre, then all efforts were turned to that.
The model was a living, working village.
Well, I think it took us about 2 years in total to do it. And then the rest of the time, I had to train the people to run the machinery because they didn't know anything about woolen. There was nobody that was here readily available in those days.
And of course what happened was we began to realise there was a very large pile of yarn gathering as we demonstrated and demonstrated.
You can sell woolen yarn easier than what you can sell cotton yarn.
We had a number of designer customers. The Chanel jacket, for example, starts its life at New Lanark. We actually spun the yarn for the Harry Potter film. When they were filming in Edinburgh, all of a sudden they needed the Ron Weasley jumpers, the Christmas jumpers, and the yarn was spun here and knitted up overnight, I believe, by a hand knitter and went onto the set the next morning.